say I'm not a completely neutral party here, and that is definitely true. In fact, 5 years ago this month, I found out that I was in kidney failure. It was kind of a surprise. Went to the doctor, felt otherwise healthy. Didn't suffer from the two main causes of end-stage renal disease, which is hypertension or diabetes. But as is the case with some folks, idiopathic renal failure, and I knew from that moment on I had months to maybe a year to find somebody to give me a body part, because I knew from my work as a physician, and I did an internship in general medicine, that if you need a kidney from a cadaver, meaning from the national waiting list, you will be waiting a heck of a long time. And now it is between a 5 and 8 year wait in major cities like Washington, D.C., projected to go up to 10 years soon. At that point, fewer than half the people who are waiting on the list, the 80,000, almost 81,000 you mentioned, will die before they actually get transplanted. So to make a very long story short, I thought somehow I wouldn't have much trouble finding someone to give me an organ. I don't know what I was thinking. Like, there's a kidney tree somewhere.
You didn't know much about organ donation before this, though, right? Is that right?
No, I did, but somehow I thought that I wouldn't have trouble finding one, and I didn't even ask anyone. I don't know what I was thinking. What preoccupied me at first was what would seem like a very impressive moral obligation I might have to someone who would do it. And that is what I wanted to avoid. I thought long and hard, who would I want to get a kidney from? But gradually became clear to me that there wasn't one to be offered. A very small family, and some people wanted to do it, bless their heart, but it's a big thing to ask, and they got cold feet. Some people didn't match. So my original thought was, if I paid someone, then I'd have no moral obligation. It would be a kind of a sterile transaction. Then that kind of morphed into, boy, I wish I could pay someone because I'm not going to get a kidney, and I will spend years on dialysis, which shortens your life and is not a pleasant existence at all. Thank goodness at what seemed like the last minute before I was about to go on dialysis, and I realized how lucky I am, because most people do end up on dialysis. Our wonderful mutual friend, Virginia Postrel, heard from a third party that I needed a kidney, and she did it. And so my story has a happy ending, but 80,000 people are waiting, as you say. 13 of them will be dead tomorrow at this time, and it won't be a happy ending for them. And so that's how I got interested in this, and it's where my passion to transform the transplant laws came from. And I'm far from alone, I should just say quickly. I'm far from alone in my interest in this. Ever since, frankly, the 70s, people have been talking about the fact that there are not going to be enough organs, and that's true every year. The list gets longer and longer. And as I say, people have been talking about the notion of compensating donors or organ markets for a long time. But it gets more pressing every year as this list gets longer and as the human rights violations grow in the black market.
So just
that there weren't. Channel her here would say it's easier for her to say this than me. Giving a kidney was clearly, it's major surgery. I'm not trivializing it, but she was out of the hospital in 3 days and back to work in 2 weeks, a small scar. In fact, she would go out of her way not to emphasize gruesome details because, in fact, there weren't. And the idea here is to let people know that while it's a serious undertaking, no question, people give a kidney and they go on and have a healthy life, and they have the most wonderful sense of accomplishment. Seems like a way to trivialize it,
But so what happened was, well, we show up together. You kind of show up with your donor, who's typically a family member or a friend. Occasionally a stranger will show up. There were about 100 of them last year. Will show up at a transplant center and say, I would like to give a kidney to the next person online. There's a special spa in heaven for people like them, no question. But Virginia and I showed up. She got tested. There's certainly a lot of physical testing. It's very important. They will only they will only remove a kidney from someone with excellent kidney function and otherwise good overall health, and make sure that she's mentally fit. And 2 months after she said she'd do it, she did. And then my age went down and my IQ went up. And so...
And you're here now.
Yeah, and, thank gosh. But again, a lot of people don't have this happy ending.
Now, you did not have to compensate a kidney donor. You were able to get one. And yet, since that time, as you've immersed yourself in the sort of kidney donation universe, you have become an advocate for establishing a market in, or at least compensating kidney donors. As the subtitle of your book is, The Case for Compensating Kidney Donors. Walk me through that, from the time you got your kidney from Virginia to taking this on, studying the topic, really throwing yourself into it to learn all about it.
Well, I started to do that before getting the kidney because I could see this wasn't going to be easy. And one of the things I did when I was having trouble on a website, sort of a J-date for people looking for markets, matchingdonors.com. Which is really a wonderful service. If you have money, you can pay for it. If not, you can sign up for free. And that's true. I've gotten people signed up for free on matchingdonors.com. The number of folks who are interested, say they're interested in giving a kidney, exceeds by at least 1 to 10 the number of folks like me who basically put an ad in there. And mine was very, very bare bones. It gave my age, my creatinine number, which is a measure of how bad renal failure is, and that I needed a kidney, and my blood type. But some people write long, really moving testimonials. Usually a second party will do that, like a relative with photos, and they're very heart-wrenching, actually. And I did find somebody on Matching Donors. In fact, before Virginia came along, he and I were set to do this, but he backed out, and then Virginia came along. But the point is, people do go on these websites. They put on bulletin boards, 1-800-SAVE-MY-DAD. It's really, they go overseas to the black market. And people are desperate. When they get desperate to save their own lives, it's really hard to fault them. And I suppose one of the things that was most striking to me is when I'd written an article that it was more about the narrative than so much about the policy implications about having used matching donors. I was really taken aback by the hostile reaction of some bioethicists primarily, who thought that somehow that was a violation of that was unfair, that I would take some initiative to save my life, that other people would do the same. And I couldn't figure out the logic because, first, it seems to me trying to save your own life while you're not hurting anyone else trumps a lot. Second, I wasn't hurting anyone else. I wasn't taking a kidney sort of off the list that was meant for someone else. This was a donor that I would have invited through my ad or attracted to offer me his or her kidney. I would have gotten off the list, so people behind me would have moved up. It only seemed like a win-win situation. I couldn't quite figure out the opposition. And then I read about another transplant surgeon who was also head of an ethics committee of the American Society of Transplant Surgeons, who was vehemently opposed to performing transplants of people who met their donors this way. And he actually turned people away from his hospital. Now, thank goodness these people, this was in Boston, could go to other hospitals. But when he sought to have all surgeons in this country boycott these kinds of transplants, then I thought this is something I have to pay attention to. I'm all for physician autonomy. If a physician doesn't feel it's right for him, that's fine. But to remove that freedom from all other surgeons was something I wanted to look into further.